Shalom Shalum, family. Watchman Yirmiyahu and Road Dog Gidget. Say hi, Gidget. Oh, he's the cutest thing. So today is the pagan day, October 19th, which is a Sunday. I did tell you that I'm stranded but not broken down. So yesterday I felt called, led, moved to test the Book of Giants, really for the first time that I kind of tested it out. That all that information that I recorded yesterday is going to be after this. While I was recording yesterday, I just stopped. And I spoke with my Yahusha, and I was in Palau. And I wasn't really sure what I was going to do with any of that. I thought I might not ever even upload that. I just didn't know. And now, finally, I feel like I have clarity from the Father to tell you, okay? I do not believe that to be inspired text, and I want to explain why. And then I'll leave everything that happened yesterday as a witness, as full transparency. I'm sorry, Salakia, not F-U-L-L. That's the name of a foreign mighty one, P-H-U-L. Complete transparency. Because every person should test for themselves. Excuse me, one moment. I need to clear my throat. Okay, thank you. I had to clear my throat. I'm chewing on this gum and saliva. Anyway, every person should discern and test for themselves and have confidence. All the writings discovered at the caves of Qumran are essential and critical to me in our Amunah, and when we look at a time capsule supporting canon, excuse me, the prophets and the Durah and the things that were discovered there, because the lying scribes are notoriously known for making edits, changes, mistransliterations, transliterating names, and just inserting foreign mighty one names and all kinds of mischief they do. It's also a powerful witness to the land because of the priesthood, because of Yahuchanan, the immerser, who they call John the Baptist, was a high priest, and he comes from that priestly line. Okay? And I believe that they came out of Jerusalem, the Qadash priests, and were hiding out. And they were preserving what they have. Now, here's where it gets a little fishy. I mentioned fried fish oftentimes. Just the F. What else is F? You know, like when you fly your banner, but it's not true. Okay, just discern what I'm saying. So yesterday I learned something I did not know, which was that the story of the shepherd boy throwing a stone into the cave, hearing a pot break, going to an antiquities dealer to get an appraisal, getting sent back to see if there's more because, wow, this is really valuable, coming out with a total of 7 scrolls, selling 4 to this merchant and 3 to this merchant, if I recall correctly. That's how it went down. So that means that this wasn't like, hey, I found something in here. Go get the officials to come look and see, and they could check it out. No, they took out and they sold. And one of the customers that made a purchase was Saint something of such and such. Okay? If you've been listening to me at all, you might recall that my channel used to be called, I'm going to say unclean things, Saints of God. Okay? Saints are literally like worshiping the dead. No, I'm just telling you straight up. Okay, just like they have Hallows Eve, Halloween. It's how they try to call something unclean, clean. It's how they try to normalize something. Scripture teaches us to not have fellowship with the dead, to not have communication with the dead, and dang sure not to make petitions or what they call prayers to the dead. Okay? We pray to our Father in heaven who is Spirit in the name of Yahusha, which is the completion of the promise. Yah adds deliverance, or Yah our deliverer. Okay? That's why I believe that the Messiah, Yahusha HaMashiach, emphasized for us to use that name, because it's acknowledging the completed work of his deliverance. He is mighty to save. The King of salvation or deliverance. Okay? So, if they took those scrolls out and sold them, we have no reliable, what I would call, chain of custody. Now, I used to work in law enforcement in records and evidence, which would involve weapons, drugs, documents, all kinds of stuff, DNA evidence, okay? There's always a chain of custody. If the chain of custody is broken, the courts don't recognize the evidence as being valid. What do I mean by that? I mean, the officer goes on scene, collects the evidence, documents how, where, when, everything, seals it. Okay, it's got they use this kind of red tape that is very fragile. If anyone tampers with the seal, it breaks it, and it's obviously not valid. Okay, so if we break the seal on drugs, then we have to document everything. We would video everything that we would do if you ever resealed it or anything for any reason, which you really kind of wouldn't, but just in case. So, and then there's a log. Everything gets signed, dated. Okay, I sign and you sign. 2 witnesses that this is, okay? We don't really have that with these documents. So, is there a possibility of tampering? Absolutely. Can they use that to invalidate the entirety of the scriptures? They could. It comes down to a matter of amunah, what you believe, what you trust. There's a document in there that people claim that the Qadash priesthood had a calendar, and that they began to observe the beginning of the year on the 4th day, the memorialization of the 4th day of creation, which basically is sun worshiping cult, because Yahuwah began counting on day 1, then he had day 2, day 3, and on day 4 he made the sun, moon, and the stars and called it Qadash. And so he didn't start over. He went to day 5 next. See what I mean? And Yahuwah ain't a lie, and Yahuwah don't make mistakes. And if you're really a son or a daughter of the Most High Yah, then you're going to do it like he did it, because you're going to follow after him, be like him in every way possible. Issues, right? This is where I have some issues. Also, there are 2 alleged sources of these extremely fragmented pieces with all kinds of missing. There's unreadable words, there's missing words, there's all kinds of errors. I personally don't believe that the Qadash priesthood would keep such a thing without there's a lot of like rewriting, there's a lot of care taken in preserving the word. Okay. Also, they theorize that it was removed from the Book of Enoch. I don't believe that either, because the Book of Enoch has been preserved and sourced in different places, even the Ethiopian Bible, my understanding. So everyone, again, I'm not saying that I'm the know-all, be-all. I'm only sharing, as your brother, my perspective on this thing. There's nothing in the Book of Giants that I've found that I feel like is essential or critical to me, that there are elements that add to what's already revealed, some confirmation, but also some things being added to. I don't believe that the giant Og clung to the door of the ark and that Noah fed him and things like that. That's a Gnostic lie, I believe. Okay, anything that they do other things in 2nd Enoch. They make some addition and alteration to Noah's family line, to a woman giving birth to this Melchizedek character after she has already died. Okay, just so you know, Yahuwah showed me that Melchizedek is a lie. It's Yiddish gibberish, and there's a secret society or secret order of Melchizedek. Also, stay away from anything like that. What it really is Malak, which means king, and Sadak, which means righteous. the righteous king, the King of Kings, without beginning, without ending, without mother, without father. That's Abrim 7. You know who that is? That's the Most High. That's Emmanuel, the Ruach of Yahuah with us. Hallelujah. Okay? So, I do not accept it. I do not recommend it. Not everything that claims to be Kadash from Qumran is Kadash. I believe they added in their leaven. And it's very easy. I've been saying for a while, well, they would have been like protecting and preserving and having like a type of authority over the cave site, which I'm sure they do. Anybody can't just walk up in there. But also, these parchments were removed by shepherds and sold. And we don't know exactly from there what happens. You see what I'm saying? So it's very easy. Just like I personally do not trust, ADA, EPA, FBI, CIA, you can just name whatever 3-letter agency that you want, that they're going to do everything clean and above board, that there's not going to be any forgery, any fraudulent, any fake videos, there's not going to be any stage events, there's not going to be any crisis actors. I don't believe any of that, because I know and I have seen and bear witness that they do those things, and they're known to be dishonest this way, which Hashatan is the father of lies, and those who practice in dishonesty and bearing false witness and all those things are out of the oath of Yahuah, right? Now, if I say a lie and I repent and I apologize, then there can be forgiveness, okay? But if this is just your normal operating procedure, like your method, I'm trying to think of a term and I can't think of it. Method operandi, whatever. Leave in the comments if you know what I'm saying, because I can't think of it right now. It's just how you are, who you are. I can discern you by your fruit. You're wicked, you're dishonest, you're right, you're a deceiver. That's what we're dealing with. So you can watch the rest of this if you want. There is some stuff that I read over and go over. It's a way for you to also just kind of test and discern for yourself. I'm probably not thinking of every single thing right now that kind of rubbed me the wrong way about it. There are some references to Leviathan there at the end, which I did find a little bit interesting. I found it interesting that they were saying that the giants and the offspring and the Nephilim are hidden in the world, and there's a veil over man's eyes to not be able to see them, and I definitely believe that to be true. Some of us in these last days can see them more now than ever in our lives. We can see a lot. It's pretty wild. I think that's why they came up with that whole demon face syndrome, because they want to try to make it seem like you're sick or something's wrong with you or whatever. But no, that's spiritual discernment at a high level. That's what it is to be given eyes to see and ears to hear, and be able to understand what's really going on. Is we wrestling not against flesh and blood, but principalities, powers, rulers, dominions, kings of the earth conspire together to make war against Yahuah, Yahusha, and Yashar'Al, Psalm 83. Read it. It's all of them. It ain't some here and there, okay? But if you want to watch that, it's after this. Baruk Yahuah. I just want to give thanks to 3 males who were here. I'm at the it's called the Driver's Lounge. All the RV transporters can come here and do laundry, take a shower, hang out, whatever. Somehow, some way, I don't even know, my keys were right up here on the dash, and I unlocked my door, and I got out, and I went around to get my coffee that's bruised right down on the floorboard on this side by the battery backup, and the door was locked. And I came back around to this side, and the door was locked. And I tried all the other handles, the door was locked. I was completely locked out of my truck, and the keys were inside. I have no idea how that happened. But, I'm not ashamed to tell you. I mean, that's on me, right? And my little baby girl was in here the whole time. She's sleeping right now. She sleeps a lot right now. She's in heat. And she's just the tiniest little puppy, 6 months old. Anyways, 3 drivers from here helped me. They actually got the door open. The window over there is cracked just so much to pass an extension cord through. And he was able to drop in a ratchet strap with the little hook at the end and get it around the door handle. And if you pull this door handle from the inside, it'll unlock the door. Then all the alarms go off and it says theft attempted and all this is freaking out. Not Palau, Abba, Barak them. They're baracking me. And in my heart and in my mind, I sincerely believe that happened to me so that they could come to my aid and receive Baruk Atah. I believe that. I encounter people out here that seek to do me harm, that curse me, that treat me some kind of way with no justification because I'm just being kind and everything, and they just want to beat what they, well, those things happen so that they can endure a judgment and a wrath, and they bring it upon themselves. And so whenever someone favors me, I believe that the scripture says, if you extend kindness to my servant, I will extend kindness to you. I will barak those who barak Yashar'Al, and I will curse those who curse Yashar'Al. So I want to say thank you to them. I know one man's name was John, and I know one man's name was Ali. The other one, I don't know for sure his name, but John and Ali are the ones who are outside in the freezing rain up on a step ladder with a flashlight trying to figure out how to get in there. We all 3 took turns trying to get it done. Ali ultimately got it done. Hallelujah. Very, very filled with thanks for that. Tomorrow, Abba willing, I'm going to get an outbound load. I've been stuck here Friday night, Saturday night, all day today, so Sunday night also. Basically 3 nights, 2 days and 3 nights stuck here, waiting for a load. Ready, willing, and able to work, but so be careful with what you accept. Not everything out there is Qadash. There's a lot of false witnesses. There's a lot of subtle little leaven mixed in. Gnostic heresies, blasphemies, all kinds of things. Okay? Shalom, Shalom, Mashpaka. See you on the next one. Shalom, family. All right, so since I had some time here where I'm ready, willing, and able to work but can't get a load, I wanted to spend some time going over the Book of Giants, the Watchers, Nephilim, and the Book of Hanuk. Copyright 2014 by Joseph Lumpkin, all rights reserved. So I'm going to read through this information. I'm going to share whatever Abba places upon my heart. I will say that this text was discovered at the caves of Qumran, aka Dead Sea Scrolls. So I think that in and of itself makes it profitable for us to test it. However, if there's anything that's errant, I believe that we still toss that out. That's how I tested Hanuk, Ubalim. I still need to go through Yashar. They call Jasher, but there's no J. The letter's actually Yashar, which means upright. Baruk Atah Yahuah, for that understanding. There is some information that I don't believe to be true and reliable there, and it's not surprising to me when you consider who manages and has protective authority, kind of like dominion over the site. Think about it. I think I've already told you how I feel about all of Hollywood, all of DC, all of the kings of the earth. And I say all, I mean all. All right? I don't know if anybody else is in agreement with me there. Let me know. Unfortunately, I feel like a lot of my siblings think, well, some of them are okay. Some of them are okay. No, I don't agree with that, but test it for yourself. So let's take a look and test through this. Baruk Yahuah. The discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in a remote Judean desert cave in 1947 is considered one of the greatest archaeological events of the 20th century. East of the city of Jerusalem, the mountainous landscape plummets 1,200 meters to the lowest point on Earth. This is the Dead Sea. Several biblical stories are placed in the caves and hills of the region. Here, King Daud fled from King Saul and hid in the desert's mountain caves. Here, Yahusha struggled with Hashatan, resisting temptation. Here, the community of Qumran hid their most valuable treasures, scrolls, and ancient wisdom. And it says, and religious insight. So I'm trying to correct unclean words whenever I can, just so you know. For thousands of years, the Judean desert held secrets buried by the JEWS of Qumran, a group of scholars referred to as a Qumran community. Much of this community was made up of, this is a word I'm not very familiar with, Essenes. I'm going to do a quick search on it. A member of an ancient Jewish ascetic group or sect of the period from the 2nd century BC to the 2nd century AD, who lived in highly organized groups and held property in common. Okay, so, I mean, is it the Qadash priesthood? I feel like that's a great question, a fair question. I have no idea how it just did this, but it changed where I was. So bear with me. Okay. This strict sect of Yahudaism used the caves to protect their literary treasures, which were scrolls hidden in sealed jars, placed deep within the caves, perched high in the area of the Dead Sea. The scrolls and their secrets were revealed by a young shepherd one day in 1947. Prompted by the loss of one of his sheep, a shepherd left his flock to search for the stray. While searching, he found an opening in the steep hillside. Curious as a young man is, he tossed a stone into the cave. The rock answered with the sound of pots breaking, compelling him to investigate. He stumbled upon the greatest find of the century, the Dead Sea Scrolls. In the caves were numerous pots. A majority of the pots were empty, begging the question, had vandals and thieves been there first, stealing much of the precious treasure? Some of the jars were still intact, with the lids sealed in place. He opened the seals and revealed the ancient scrolls. They were wrapped in linen and blackened with age. No rubies, diamonds, or gold, just a bunch of old scrolls turning to dust before his eyes. He was not impressed, wondering if he could trade them for anything of value. He and several of his companions brought them to Kando, a Bethlehem iniquities dealer, for approval. Kando seemed to recognize the age and value, so he sent the Bedouins back to the caves in search of more treasures. They returned with a total of 7 scrolls. The boys had no idea the value of their find, so they sold 4 of the 7 scrolls to Kando and 3 to a second antiquities dealer named Salahi. Kando in turn resold them to Archbishop Shamuel, head of the Syrian Orthodox monastery of St. Mark in Jerusalem. Soon after the announcement of the find, Bedouin treasure hunters and archaeologists descended on the site and the surrounding caves. Ultimately, they would find hundreds of ancient scrolls and fragments, including the oldest existing copies of the Hebrew Bible. The scrolls range in date from the 3rd century BCE, mid-Second Temple period, to the 1st century of the Common Era, before the destruction of the Second Temple in 70 CE. The scrolls provide an unprecedented picture of the diverse religious beliefs of ancient Judaism and of daily life during the Second Temple period when Yahusha lived and preached. While Hebrew is the most frequently used language in the scrolls, about 15% were written in Aramaic and several in Greek. The scrolls material are made up mainly of parchment, although some of the papyrus and the text on the scroll is engraved on copper. A quarter of these non-biblical manuscripts are sectarian and reflect the life and philosophy of a specific community. These core texts consist of eschatological, biblical commentary, apocalyptic text, liturgical works, and regulations or rules on how to govern community life. In the early days of scrolls research, scholars attributed all of the Qumran scrolls to the Essene community. In recent years, however, the consensus has been challenged and modified, though several scholars still maintain a link between the Essenes and the Dead Scrolls. In that time, the Essenes were one of 3 basic sects of Judaism. Jewish sects described in ancient source were Pharisees, Sadducees, and Essene sect. It is thought that the majority of the scrolls are written and hidden by the Essenes. One of the multitudes of discoveries from the caves of Qumran is a scroll given by the name the Book of Giants. It is thought to have been based on the Book of Enoch, a pseudepigraphical Jewish work from the 3rd century BCE, which was based on Genesis 6, 1-4. The Book of Giants, like the Book of Enoch, concerns itself with the Nephilim, which in the Chanukh version are the offspring of fallen angels who are called watchers. The angels saw the beauty of the daughters of Adam that broke their allegiance to heaven, descended to earth, and married these females, and thus fathered the giants. The book attempts to fill in the details about the giants and their offspring that the Book of Chanukh is lacking. Indeed, there has been a theory put forth that the Book of Giants was actually part of the Book of Enoch at one time. The text relates how some giants named Ohia, Haya, and Mahwe, sons of the fallen angels, were compelled to dream. In these dreams, they foresaw the biblical deluge and their own demises. There is a dialogue concerning the futility of fighting Yahuah and his Malachim, even though they could conquer any human alive. Seeing their coming fate, they seek to enlist the help of Chanukh. The mention of Chanukh and the storyline referring to the patriarch places the Book of Enoch firmly in the list of Enochian texts, along with 1st Enoch, 2nd Enoch, and 3rd Enoch, also known as the Ethiopic Book of Enoch, the Slavonic Secrets of Enoch, and the Hebrew Book of Enoch, respectively. I have not tested all of those books. I did see some very unclean information in 2nd Enoch. I believe those are Gnostic writings, and it may be the same with this one. I don't know yet. I'm just testing this right now. But I just want everybody to discern and use caution. Don't just, because it's some old book, just trust it, okay? Even if it was allegedly found with the others, we don't really know how they maintain and regulate that, and they are very notorious for fried fish. Okay. In the Qumran version of the Book of Giants, there is a brief mention of one of the giants, Ohia, whose name is found in the Babylonian Talmud, where it is said Sihon and Og mention the book of Numbers were brothers, as they were the sons of Oiah, the son of Samhazai, one of the leaders of the fallen angels in the book of Hanuk. Samhazai is the same as Samyaza, also Samhaza, Shamyaza, all these different spellings. He is a fallen angel of apocryphal Jewish and Christian tradition that ranked in the heavenly hierarchy as one of the Grigori, meaning watchers in Greek. The name Shamyaza means infamous rebellion. The combination of Sham, meaning name or fame, whether positive or negative, and Azaz, which means rebellion, arrogance, as a negative particle. The names occur in Enochian. This name occurs in Enochian literature. We meet the Grigori in several books, some of which are considered apocryphal and some pseudo-apocryphal. In the book of 2nd Enoch, we read chapter 18. This is a book that I found to be unclean, by the way. The males took me on to the 5th heaven and placed me, and there I saw several and countless soldiers called Grigori, of human appearance, and their size was greater than that of great giants, and their faces withered, and their silence of their mouths perpetual, and there was no service in the 5th heaven. And I said to the males who were there with me, note the Greek transliteration Igigoroi is the source of the term Grigori. The Igigoroi are the Watchers, a group of fallen angels who mated with mortal females to produce the Nephilim mentioned in the book of Yubalim, 1st Enoch, and Genesis 6:4, which I believe that all of those are Qadash. Why are they so very withered, and their faces melancholy, and their mouths silent, and why is there no service in this heaven? And they said to me, these are the Grigori, who with their prince Satan, rejected the Elward of light, so a reference to Yahuwah. After them are those who are held in great darkness in the 2nd heaven, and 3 of them went down to earth from Yahuwah's throne to the place Armon, Mount Hermon, and broke through their vows on the shoulder of the hill Hermon, and saw the daughters of Adam, how ta'ub they are, and took to themselves wives, and fouled the earth with their deeds, who broke the law, and mixing, giants are born, and amazingly large, with great hatreds. Note, the hill of Hermon could be Mount Hermon, which is mentioned over a dozen times in the Bible. And therefore, Yahuwah judged them with great judgment, and they weep for their brethren, and they will be punished on Yahuwah's great day. And I said to the Grigori, I saw your brethren in their works and their great torment, and I palaver them. But Yahuwah has condemned them to be under the earth until this heaven and this earth shall end forever. And I said, why do you stand there, brethren, and do not serve before Yahuwah's face, and have not put your service before Yahuwah's face? You could anger Yahuwah completely. And they listened to my advice and spoke to the 4 ranks in heaven. As I stood with those 4 shupars sounded together with a loud voice, and the Grigori broke into song with one voice, and their voice went up before Yahuwah pitifully and touchingly. A central theme in the book of Giants is the fact that the giants were the offspring of the Watchers and the human females. This theme has varied somewhat between various copies of the book of Giants. As it turns out, there are several versions of the book of Giants. One version of the book of Giants was spread by the Manichaean religion. The book became widely read and now exists in Syrian, Syriac, Greek, Persian, Sogdian, Uyghur, and Arabic. Each version is somewhat different from that of the Qumran text, incorporating in each version local myth, legend, and various beliefs of the religions which had adapted the story of their own purpose. Mani, the founder of the Manichaean religion, needed to alter the story in order to fit into his system. He taught a dualistic system of Ta'ub and evil, the heavenly origin of the sons of Elohim of Genesis, Book of Giants, Book of Enoch did not fit into his conviction that evil could not come from Ta'ub. Thus, the angels who were called the sons of Elohim were presented as demons and evil entities. This kept the separation between Ta'ub and evil taught in his religion. Manichaeism taught a dualistic cosmology describing the struggles between Ta'ub, spiritual world of light, and an evil material world of darkness. These forces were distinct, separate, and always at odds. The forces of Ta'ub and evil are at war. They battle throughout human history. The world becomes darker as light is gradually removed from the world of matter and returned to its place of origin, the world of light. Mani's beliefs were based on the Mesopotamian Gnosticism and other religious movements. There are numerous similarities between Mani's Book of Giants and the stories of giants related in the Enoch literature and in the Book of Yubalim. Both Enoch and Yubalim are part of the Ethiopic Christian canon. Mani's borrowed literally from early Jewish tradition in his religious movement, adapting them as needed. The idea was upheld by the discovery of the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1947. J.T. Millick discovered roughly 6 to 10 extremely poorly preserved manuscripts of an Aramaic Book of Giants. Apparently, the document used by Mani as the basis for his scriptural work. Their dates fall roughly across the 1st century BCE, so presumably the book was composed before this, although how long before remains open to discussion. The Aramaic version found at Qumran also describes the Sumerian hero Gilgamesh and the monster Humbaba. The Qumran text was in such poor condition and so fragmented that clear reconstruction was impossible. Pieces of the text are missing, and at times so difficult to reconstruct that the order of certain fragments becomes unclear. Thus, the order of certain verses in the text are best guesses. Scholars have pored over the small fragments, comparing them to other versions in an attempt to determine the proper flow. However, versions vary so widely that there are places, for example, in the Manichaean version, that have no analog to the Aramaic version. Even with part of the text missing, the Book of Giants gives us information on how the ancients thought about fallen angels, the Watchers, Nephilim, and the patriarch Hanuk. Certainly, the Book of Giants can be used to augment and expand on the story given us by the Book of Hanuk. The Aramaic Book of Giants draws on ancient Near Eastern myths, and the Manichaean version draws on Iranian myths. Two of the evil giants in the Aramaic version, named Gilgamesh and Hobabis. Gilgamesh is an epic figure in Sumerian and Akkadian literature, best known for the Epic of Gilgamesh, a work whose importance in ancient Mesopotamia was comparable to that of the Homeric epics in ancient Greece. Gilgamesh was said to be king of Uruk. Uruk was an ancient city in Sumer and later Babylonia. Situated east of the present bed of the Euphrates River, some 30 kilometers east of modern Samawa, al-Muthana, in modern-day Iraq. It is thought Gilgamesh lived sometime between 2800 and 2500 BC. The latest and most comprehensive telling of Gilgamesh legend was the 12-tablet standard Babylonian version, compiled circa 1200 BC by the priest Sinleeki Uini. That feels incredibly unclean. Okay. In one view, the map that follows, it is easy to see how an ancient poem of the king of Sumer could have influenced the religion of Mani, a Babylonian. Since Babylonia is modern-day Iraq, likewise, it is easy to see how the actual name of Gilgamesh and the legends of the great strength recounted in the epic could have been used in the text found along Dead Sea Scrolls, since Iraq is in the region. Indeed, the path of transmission follows the area of agriculture in ancient times. So there's like a map here, but this is making me want to think of this. Okay. So some people claim that the promised land, or the land flowing with milk and honey, is the United States and not where they say it is. So they say that Jerusalem is not really Jerusalem and things like this. But I really don't ever hear those people saying that they don't think that Babylon is Iraq. Like, I wonder about that. Do they also think that Babylon is somewhere in the United States as well? I'd be very curious to know. So the map that they have here, it's black and white. There's not much to it. It shows Turkey, the Mediterranean Sea. It calls Canaan and Lebanon for what would be the area of Jerusalem. You see the Jordan, the Dead Sea, Syria, Saudi Arabia, the Red Sea. Then you have Iraq and Babylon, Mesopotamia. So it's not too wild and crazy. There's obviously no modern day ISIS Ra El. We know that was through the Balfour Declaration and the Rothschilds and British rule and forced occupation and a lot of things there that we could talk about, but not right now. According to the epic Gilgamesh, a mortal demigod, so this is also the hero. The hero is half man, half fallen angel, as is a demigod. This is the thing. Okay. Meets Utnapishtim, the Babylonian version of Noah, and the only man to survive the flood. Well, I mean, he had sons that survived the flood with him, so I'm not sure what's up with that. Utnapishtim was made immortal by the gods, which has it as a lowercase. So this would be like, demonic entities or Nephilim, which they don't make him immortal. What? In the Manchean version, the giant Hobabis, who is called Humbaba, takes someone's wife. The giants fall out among themselves, or war against each other, begin to kill one another, as well as other creatures. The giants Gilgamesh and Hobabis of the Book of Giants appear to be the same as Gilgamesh and Humbaba of the Gilgamesh epic. In another version, Atanbush is mentioned. It seems to be the same as Utnapishtim, the immortal. Since there are lost pages in the Aramaic Book of Giants, he may have made an appearance there also. Okay, let me just see how much this is. Just comparing different versions. So this is what would be called the Aramaic version, and I think we just go ahead and get right into this. The Aramaic version of the Book of Giants. Following is a synopsis of the storyline of the Book of Giants, Aramaic version. Oh, so this is going to be your summary of it? This isn't the actual thing? Let me test this and see. I don't know, I may have to go and look for somewhere else. I just was searching for this online, so The fallen angels, also called the Watchers, lusted after and mated with human females, who gave birth to offspring called Nephilim. The Nephilim were monstrous and bloodthirsty giants. They killed and consumed the animals, plants, cattle, and humans of the earth. Having experienced fornication for the first time, they not only consumed the creatures they found, but according to one version, they physically abused them as well. These events were reported to Hanuk. Hanuk exalted Yahuah and praised him in his esteem and power for his creation. Several giants, including Hombaba, Mahawai, and perhaps the watcher Baruk Atah, discussed killing the humans. The giants had dreams predicting a great flood in which the world would perish. The first dream was of a stone writing tablet submerged in water. In this dream, most of the names of the tablet were washed away, but 3 names remained. One version of the dream was of an angel defacing the tablet as a symbol of destruction brought about upon the earth. In defacing the tables, 3 names could not be erased, symbolizing the flood's destruction, with only 3 males remaining alive on earth. There was also a second dream which referenced to a garden being destroyed. After the destruction, 3 plant shoots of trees were left in the garden. In the second dream, an angel descended and cut down all but 3 shoots in the garden. The text may be interpreted as 3 young trees or 3 plant shoots. The 3 shoots and names represent the sons of Nach. The giants met, counseled together, and decided to ask for help. Mahawah consulted Hanuk the first time. The giants Oyah and Mahawah had a conversation in which Mahawah told Oyah something he heard while in the presence of his father, the watcher Baruk Atah. Oyah responded that he too had heard of the 4 marvels. He compared it to the stages of childbirth. Baruk Atah was the 9th watcher of the 20 leaders of the 200 fallen angels that were also mentioned in the ancient work of the book of Hanuk. There were 200 watchers who descended. They were grouped like soldiers with a leader for each team of 10. There were 20 leaders for the total of 200 watchers. The name Barachal means lightning of Elohim, which is fitting since it has been said that Baruk Atah taught males astrology during the days of Yarad. Ouch. Gilgamesh, one of the giants, proclaimed that despite his great strength and courage and his ability to kill any mortal, he had been unable to prevail in a war against a number of heavenly beings, archangels. He lamented that he had no hope of surviving a complete on battle with them. Oyah said he was made to dream a very disturbing dream. As it turned out, the giants were having nightmares and visions. Gilgamesh also had a dream and was told to recount it. Oyah spoke to his brother Hayah about the watcher Azazel. Azazel was one of the watchers and father to some of the giants. Yahuah condemned Azazel. The giants realized there was no escape and they must die for their terrible deeds. Oyah had not dared to sleep due to a vision that disturbed him so deeply it frightened him into being afraid of sleep. In the assembly of giants, they discussed their great fear of being killed and how their coming corporal death in the flood would strip their bodies from their spirits and reduce them to evil spirits. Man, boy, that's what's up. The watchers were imprisoned. They told the giants they could not win the coming battle. The giants would be defeated. Mahawah and the 2 tablets were discussed. The second tablet was a letter from Hanuk to the watcher Shamayaza and his fellow watchers. They were rebuked for their chata crimes and for producing the giants. Their actions were labeled corrupt and had come to the attention of the archangel Raphael. They were told they would be destroyed. Raphael told them to release their hostages and to halal. Yah relayed a message from Gilgamesh and Hababis, which involved the cursing of the princes, sons of king. This cheered the giants. We assume the princes are the angels, and the watchers cursed had no effect on them. Two giants, Ahaya and Ha'aya, had dreams. Haya described his dream in the assembly of the giants. He dreamed of gardeners watering a garden which produced great shoots of trees. But the garden was destroyed in a deluge of water and fire. The other giants were unable to interpret the dream. Haya proposed that they consult Hanuk for an interpretation. Then his brother Ayah told of his dream in which Yahuwah descended to the earth. Thrones were erected, and Yahuwah sat on his throne in the midst of the angels. Yahuwah judged based on what was written in certain books. The giants asked Mahaweh to go to Hanuk, whom he had encountered before, to ask him the interpretation. Mahaweh took wing and flew across the great desert. Hanuk saw him and called out to him. Mahaweh referred to this encounter as his second visit. Mahaweh asked Hanuk to interpret the dreams. Hanuk listened to the accounts of the dreams and foretold violent death and a number of watchers and giants, or Naphalim. Although the watchers and giants asked for forgiveness and shalom, Hanuk told them Yahuwah had declared there will be no shalom for you. Hanuk Barak and praised Yahuwah. Hang on one second. Let me see what my baby's asking me. Okay. So it went on to say Hanuk Baruched and praised Yahuwah. The Aramaic version was thought to belong to the book of Hanuk at one time. We will attempt to place it back into the book of Hanuk in some reasonable order and reconstruct the text. The following is a reconstructed text. The order of some fragments is not certain and may not follow the preceding outline. Translation of the Aramaic version found the caves of Qumran. Unreadable or missing portions of the text are signified by ... within the text. The symbol ... in brackets signifies a phrase or portion thereof. Book of Giants reconstructed text. The wicked angels descend, bring both knowledge and havoc. Now it's going to have these little fragmented sections, and they have names like 1Q, 2, 3, frag 9, 14, 15. And I'm not going to call those all out. I'm just going to try to read through these things. This is pieces of information. We're just like a puzzle. Right? Okay. So it says ... They knew the secrets of ... Sin or Chata was great in the earth ... And they killed several ... They begot giants ... Okay? Maybe I shouldn't even say ... every time. It's a lot. Okay. Everything that the earth produced, blank, blank, the great fish, blank, blank, the sky with all that grew, fruit of the earth and all kind of grain and all the trees, beasts and reptiles, all creeping things of the earth, and they observed every harsh deed and utterance, male and female, and among humans. 200 donkeys, 200 asses, 200 rams of the flock, 200 goats, 200 beasts of the field, from every animal, from every bird, from miscegenation, inbreeding of people considered to be different races. They defiled, they begot giants and monsters. They begot, and behold, all the earth was corrupted with its blood, and by the hand of giants which did not satisfy them, and they were seeking to devour several blank 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 monsters attacked it. Flesh and all monsters they would arise lacking true knowledge, because the earth grew corrupt. Mighty they were considering from the angels upon, in the end will perish and die. They caused great corruption on the earth. This did not suffice to they will be. It's all blanks, blank, 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 blank. Okay, I'm not going to keep doing it this way. I thought that this was going to actually just kind of like be a version I could read, but it doesn't look like it is. There's also some notes here for the Manichaean version of the Book of Giants. Fragments of and allusions to the Manichaean version of the Book of Giants have been recovered in medieval manuscripts in various languages, including Middle Persian, Sogdian, Uyghur, Coptic, Parthian, and Latin. The following is a summary of the surviving fragments and allusions, which has been placed in sequence, which reveals a logical storyline. There could be other possible sequences of the fragmented verses. Some of the Manichaean versions adapted the story of the giants to fit the Iranian mythology. Arvo discusses these adaptations at length. Three of the most striking adjustments have to do with the names of major characters. Sam is the name of an immortal dragon slayer in later Iranian epic. His name is given to the giant Oyah. Oyah's brother Hayya is given the name Nariman, who in Iranian epic is a figure closely connected to Sam, either identified with him or presented as one of his close relatives. The name of the father of the giant Mahaway, the demon Virodad, means given by lightning in Persian, a loose translation of Baruk Atah, which is Hebrew lightning of Yahuah. The watcher Baruk Atah seems to be the father of Mahaway in the Aramaic version of the giants. Following is a synopsis of the storyline of the Manichaean version of the Book of Giants. 200 demons descend to earth. The watchers forsake their duties, descending to earth because of the beauty of the females. Some thought they could resist the allure, but they could not. They began having intercourse with these females. The demons revealed forbidden arts and spiritual mysteries. Some shared their power to seduce the females. In doing these things, the watchers brought ruin upon the earth. The descent from their estate and revealing to humans the secrets of power angered the Malachim and Yahuah. Hanuk warned that the coming of the 200 demons will lead only to hurting speech and hard labor. Watchers subjugated the human race, killing hundreds of thousands of the righteous in battle, forcibly marrying Yapa women and enslaving nations. The watchers veil, which seems to mean they hid themselves among humans to keep the angels sent from Yahuah from finding them. Very interesting. The righteous endure burning, and Hanuk is mentioned. The watchers Shamiyaza begat two giant sons, Ohia and Ahia or Haya. The other demons and Yaksas begat the rest of the giants. These are the Nephilim. So it's this idea that I think that I heard in there that they were actually twins. So that the leader that led the rebellion, which would be like Hashatan, Lucifer, Shamyaza, had two sons, and I think there were twins. So very, very interesting. Versions of the Book of Giants were influenced by local traditions. The names of Hayya Sam were introduced via myths pertaining to the Iranian hero, which is half man, half god. This explains the immortality of Sam. The name of the country Irian Bahala, and the change of the mountains to Kigman Mountains, substituting for Mount Hermon, reflect changes due to the influence of local myths, names, landscapes, and terrains. The giants grew up and brought destruction and ruin upon the earth and the human race. The lamentation of humanity reached up into the heavens. This says the God Yima accepted the prayers and worship of mankind as they begged him for help. The giants boasted that Sam and his brothers would live and rule forever because their power and strength were unequaled among mankind. This is a possible parallel to the Aramaic versions of Gilgamesh. The giant Humbaba robbed another of his wife. The giants argued among themselves and began killing one another and other creatures. Sam and his brother were mentioned. Sam had a dream in which a tablet was thrown in the water. The tablet contained 3 signs portending woe, battle, and destruction. Naaman had a dream about a garden full of trees and rows. He saw 200 trees. A list of proverbs was recited. Naaman reported. Okay, hang on one second, guys. Okay. So I was just saying a list of proverbs was recited. Naaman reported what he saw in the dream. In the dream, some were weeping and lamenting, and several others were wicked rulers. The giant Mahaweh, son of Baruk Atah, wanted to seek out Hanuk. As he flew, he heard a voice as the sun began to rise, warning him. The heavenly voice told him that if he had flown too high, the sun would place his wings on fire. The voice told him he must descend. The voice guided him to Hanuk, who hails him and greets him. This seems to be an adaptation of the Icarus myth. He lands and the voice leads him to, as he approached Hanuk, hail him. The dream was recounted to Hanuk, who interpreted the dream, indicating that the trees represented the watchers, and the same. He also mentioned the giants who were born of females. The trees are pulled up. Mahaweh was ordered not to run away, but to bring the message written on 2 stone tablets, showing it first to Naaman, who brought them to share the contents of 1 tablet with the giants. However, the encounter pertained to the demons. Samazad told him to read the writing to Hanuk, or have Hanuk to read it. Enoch delivered a message of judgment to the demons and their children, telling them that they will have no shalom and that they will see the destruction of their children, aka the giants. He stated the giants ruled for 120 years. Enoch predicted an era of earthly fertility and birth after the flood. Some exhorted the other giants to cheer up and eat, but they were too sorrowful to eat, and instead they fell asleep. Malai went to Atabush, it's probably another name for Hanuk, and told him everything. When Mahaweh returned, Sam had a dream in which he ascended to heaven. He saw the water of the earth consumed with heat. A demon came out of the water. Some beings, the protected spirits, were invisible, but he saw the heavenly rulers. Here the text becomes unclear, and Shamazah and Mahawah had a conversation. Mahawah mentioned his father, Baruk Atah. There are references to weapons and favor on someone who witnessed something not intended for them to see, but he escaped with his life. Sam and Mahawah searched for something. Assurance was given to Mahaweh that he would be protected from Sam, but nevertheless Sam and Mahaweh argued and began to fight. Keep in mind, these appear to be brothers. The wicked demon was glad to see the apostle Hanuk. They gathered before him, begging him for hasad or favor and promising to reform their ways. They hoped for him to intervene. Hanuk warned the demons that they would be placed in fire and taken to face eternal damnation. The demons believed they would never lose their power, but they did not know their powers would not matter. He also addressed their crime-laden sons, aka giants, and described how the righteous will fly over the fire of damnation and gloat over the souls inside. Baruk Atah Yahuah. Also, just keep in mind how these two brothers are like warring, because it explains a lot when you look at the contention that exists in the earth between different types of wicked entities. They may ultimately have the same headmaster, but they still war within their own self, within their own power structure. You know, the army of darkness is not doesn't work like the army of light or of Yahuwah, the Qadash angels. And now we're still laden with rebellion and hatah, being born again by the Ruach of Yahuwah, but ultimately we will be cleansed and purged and refined, and we won't have any of that type of rebellion. We'll be all of one mind under the headship of Yahusha. The demons took some heavenly helpers hostage. As a result, angels descend from heaven, terrifying the 200 demons who took human form and hid among human beings. This was called the veiling. So that's also very interesting, because like I was doing the Hath Galuth series on Revelation, if you want to go check it out. But you know, apocalypse, unveiling, revelation, and there's this time where you can start to like more clearly see the army of darkness, the works of darkness. The righteous can't. The rest of the people can't really seem to see or discern the demons among us and how they're infiltrated into everything and working into every principality, power, rulers, dominions, kingdoms, all that stuff. Anyways, that's because it's veiled. Okay? The angels separated out the human beings and posted watch over them. The angels seized the giants from the demons and led them, the children of the giants, to safety in 32 distant towns prepared for them by living spirit at Aryan Wazan, the traditional homeland of the Indo-Iranians, in the vicinity of the sacred Mount Sumeru and other mountains. These people originated the arts and crafts. 200 demons fought a massive and fiery battle with the 4 angels. Now I said these 4 angels, like you read about, that are bound under the Tigris or the Euphrates, right? 200 demons were the 200 watchers of fallen angels and the Aramaic version. Atan Bush battled, accompanied by watchers and giants, and 3 of the giants were killed. An angel and other beings were also killed. Oyah and Ahia resolved to keep their promise to do battle, and they boast of their power and strength. Yahuwah commanded 4 Malak to bind the watchers with everlasting chains in dark prisons, and the angels annihilated their children. Even before the rebellion of the watchers, this prison had been built for them under the mountains. In addition, 36 towns had been prepared for the habitation of the wicked and long-lived sons of the giants before they were even born. Oyah or Ayah, the primordial monster Leviathan, and the archangel Raphael engaged in a great battle, and they vanished. Author's note: according to one tradition, Oyah survived the flood and fought this battle after the flood. This is a myth of a watcher named Og surviving the flood. This attempts to answer the question as to where the giants such as Goliath come from. According to legend, Noah had mercy on Og, who was found clinging to the ark after the watchers had risen and placed the ark afloat. Og clung to the door of the ark until the water rescinded. During the flood, Nach fed the giant. After the flood was over, Og went his own way. No. What in the world? So obviously the disembodied spirits of the giants is involved in possession to this day. But there also seems to be a preserving of a bloodline to where it's become diluted throughout the ages, like in their physical attributes, but they still have these like altered DNA, I guess, in a way. And why there were giants in those days and after that is still a great point of contention. But I think it has to do with the preserving of the bloodline. That's why they're so obsessed with it, and with the inbreeding, and also the actual families are not the ones that they present to us. I think that's part of a deception too, to give us these other families, which are they are like on the pyramid, so to say, of the kingdom of darkness, but they're ranked down far. They're the ones that are up closer to the top. I don't feel like we know, apart from the names that are given in these texts. So there are some bloodlines that have so much wealth and power and influence, they fly completely under the radar. They travel without having to go through any kind of checkpoints or searches or anything like that. And they even have ways that they ship different things around the world that get completely unsearched. So this whole, I don't know, like, oh, maybe he clung to the door and Noah fed him and stuff like that. I'm not buying that. You have to discern that stuff for yourself. All right. In another legend, Og was so tall that the waters only covered his feet. This is also, I also believe this to be false, because actually the waters were a certain distance above the tops of the mountains as well. And this is messed up. The whole thing just turned white, the whole website. What in the world? Okay, here we go. And this tells you something that's in the Jewish encyclopedia and rabbinical literature and stuff like that. I don't really want to get into any of those things, to be completely honest with you. I thought that we were going to have more just like something that we could read. And so it is here. I just have to go down to it, so bear with me. What they do is they give a history of the book of Hanuk right here. I have a whole series on Hanuk and a playlist on Hanuk, and I would actually encourage you to go check that out. I'm not going to get into all that right now. So we're just going to be going bypassing that. I'm actually going to stop the video for a second until I find the place, and then I'll come right back. Just one second. Okay, so what they have here is the Book of Watchers, chapters 1 through 36. They call this the Book of Enoch, including the Book of Giants. So I'm just going to try to go through this and see how it goes. The words of the Baruk Atah Yahuah, which is Baraked, the elect and righteous, who will be living in the day of the tribulation. Now, when all the wicked and Yahless people are to be removed, he began his story saying, I am Hanuk, a righteous man, whose eyes were opened by Yahuah, who saw the vision of the Qadashayam, or the placed apart one, in heaven, which the angels showed me, and I heard everything from them, and I saw and understood, but it was not for this generation to know, but for a remote one which is to come, which it just said that this is for the generation in the last days, living in the tribulation. As I began my story concerning the elect, I said, the Qadashayam will come out of his dwelling, and the eternal Elohim will tread on the earth, even on Mount Sinai, and appear in the strength of his might from the Shemayim. It reminds me of the texts that talk about Yahusha standing with 1 foot on the sea and 1 foot on the land. And right here it says the eternal Elohim. Okay? Because Echad. The Qadash Echad. And if you love that, please go check out that Hanuk series, because it's just everywhere in there and it's so great. And all shall be very afraid. The watchers shall shake, and great fear and trembling shall seize them all the way to the ends of the earth. And the high mountain shall be shaken, and the high hills shall be laid low, and shall melt like wax in the flame, which is also like what we were reading about in 4 Azra. 4 Azra just the other day. And the earth shall be completely torn apart, and all that is on the earth shall be destroyed, and there shall be a judgment on all. This is something that I was talking about, Hashatan's little season, since I don't believe this to be like hundreds of years or be going on right now or anything. It's more like to come. When Yahusha returns and he destroys all evil with the breath of his mouth, and the mountains melt like wax before his face, everyone is to get assembled together in the valley of judgment shortly thereafter. Okay, so the second coming and the judgment are before this little season. So this I think would be a problem for people who cling to that theory. Has the judgment already happened? How were you judged? Are you on parole? Do you get judged again? Or is the judgment once and for all? These are basic questions that I think are important to answer, right? And the earth shall be completely torn apart, and all that is on the earth shall be destroyed, and there shall be a judgment on all. But with the righteous he will make shalom, and will protect the elect, and his favor shall be upon them, and they shall all belong to Yahuwah, and they shall prosper, and they shall be barakah, and the light of Elohim shall shine upon them. And behold, he comes with 10,000s of his Qadash ones, Qadashayam, to execute judgment on all, and to destroy all the wicked, and to convict all flesh of all works of unrighteousness, which they have committed, and of all the hard things which unyali transgressors have spoken against him. Then there's a little sub note here. It looks like Jude 1:14. And Hanuk, also the 7th from Adam, prophesied of these, saying, Behold, Yahuwah cometh with 10,000 of his Qadashayam to execute judgment upon all, and to convince all that are wicked among all them of their wicked deeds which they have committed, and of all their hard speeches which they have spoken against him. And so they do take the time to show parallel verses between Hanuk and what they would call canon, so you could see how it's supported in those places. Observe everything that takes place in the sky, how the lights do change their orbits, or do not change their orbits, and the luminaries which are in heaven, how they all rise and place in order in its season, appointed time. Do not transgress their appointed orders. Consider the earth and understand the things which take place on it from start to finish, how steadfast they are, how none of the things on the earth change, but all the works of Yahuwah appear to you. Behold, the summer and the winter, how the entire earth is filled with water and clouds and dew and rain all upon it. Observe and see how the winter all the trees seem, though they had withered and shed all their leaves, except 14 trees which do not lose their foliage, but retain their old foliage from 2 or 3 years until new come. And again, observe the days of the summer, how the sun is above the earth, and you seek shade and shelter because of the heat of the sun, and the earth also burns with growing heat. So you cannot walk on the earth or on the rock because of its heat. Observe how the trees are covered with green leaves, and how they bear fruit. Understand, know, and recognize that he that lives forever made them this way for you. That's also interesting how it says for you, and it said that that it was for the righteous in the last generation. That's what this book was written for. So the context of them saying for you is matched in other places where it says that Yahuwah created the heavens and earth for his bride, Yashar'Al, the upright peoples of Elohim. Upright meaning they obey the commandments, guard the commandments. Nothing to do with the color of their skin. It has to do with the content of their character, or his Ruach being in them is what leads them into all righteousness, Baruk Yahuah. And all his works go on before him from year to year forever, and all the works and the tasks which they accomplish for him do not change, and so it done. So I love that too, because the calendar that Yahuwah showed to me with the 364 days, 52 weeks, 52 Shabbats in a row, and the year starts again, and these feasts are fixed. The only feasts that move are the new moon days, which are the observances of a new season, spring, summer, autumn, fall, like this. And it is true that it doesn't change, right? It is true that the days are fixed and they're in place, and the sun is very obedient and running his circuits, just continuing in perfect order, as does the calendar. Like I said, the only thing that varies slightly is the beginning of seasons from year to year, and that's marked out by the sun. That's what she shows us. She doesn't show us a month. Months are already given to us. 30 days, 30 days, 31 days. That's the first 3 months. Then it goes 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31, 30, 30, 31. It just repeats like that. Over and over. That's all 12 months. It goes the same thing again the next year. The first month always has 30 days. The second month always has 30 days. The third month always has 31 days. It does not matter what the moon does for that. It doesn't change the count of days. Hallelujah. Consider how the sea and the rivers in like manner accomplish their courses and do not change because of his commandment. But you have neither held to nor have you done the commandments of Yahuwah, but you have turned away and spoken proud and hard words with unclean lips against his greatness. O you hard-hearted, you shall find no shalom. Therefore shall you curse your days, and the year of your life shall perish, and the year of your destruction shall be multiplied, and in an eternal curse shall you find no favor. Deuteronomy 11:26 says, see, I am placing before you today a Barukah and a curse. The Barukah, if you obey the commands of Yahuwah, your Elohim, that I am giving you today, and a curse if you disobey the commands of Yahuwah, your Elohim, and turn from the way which I command you today, and begin following other Elohim, which you had not known. In those days you shall make your name an eternal curse to all the righteous, and by you shall all who curse, and all the transgressors and the lawless shall curse you forever, and for you, the Yahless, there shall be a curse. And all the elect shall rejoice, and there shall be mercy, forgiveness of crime, and favor, and shalom, and forbearance, and gil. There shall be salvation for them, like and a taub light. And for all you transgressors there shall be no deliverance, but on you all shall abide the curse. But for the elect there shall be light, and gil, and shalom, and they shall inherit the earth. So that, obviously, there you go. Like, that's ultimately what it is. It's made for you to inherit if you're in the way. So I feel like this is just basically reading the entire book of Hanuk right here. Like, how is the parts where we see them inserting giving all the names of these different fallen angels right here. I'm just trying to find the parts which are supposed to be, okay, here's one. I'm going to just start in chapter 7 a little bit right here. And all of them together went and took wives for themselves, each choosing one for himself, and they began to go into them and to defile themselves with intercourse with them. Genesis 5:32. And Nach was 500 years old, and Nach begot Sham, Ham, and Japheth. And it came to pass, when males began to multiply on the face of the earth, the daughters were born unto them. That the sons of Elohim saw the daughters of Adam, that they were fair, and they took for themselves of all which they chose wives. And Yahuwah said, My Ruach shall not always strive with Adam, for that he also is flesh, yet his days shall be 120 years. So another confirmation right here, whenever it says, they say that there's this word Edom, there's no E. The first letter is Aleph, that's an A. So even when they say Edomites, it's Adamites. It's the people of the flesh. Chaotic, lawless, disorderly, no Ruach of Yahuwah, just saying. And so right here he says, My spirit shall not always strive with Adam, for he is also flesh. His days shall be numbered 120 years. There were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of Adam came into the daughters when the sons of Elohim came unto the daughters of Adam, and they bare children to them, the same became mighty males of old, males of renown. And Yahuwah saw that the wickedness of Adam was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thought of his heart was only evil continually. And it repented Yahuwah that he had made Adam on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. Verse 2. And the angels taught them charms and spells and cuttings of roots, and made them acquainted with plants. And the females became pregnant and bare large giants, whose height was 300 ells, cubits. Now there's a fragment in here. And it says, they knew the secrets of Hatah was great in the earth, blank, blank, and they killed many, blank, blank. They begat giants, blank. There's a big text of Jubilee, which is our Jubileem, a confirmation right here too. Because of these three things came the flood on the earth, namely the fornication that the watchers committed against the law of their ordinances, when they went a whoring after the daughters of Adam, and took wives of all whom they chose, and they made the beginning of uncleanness. And they begat sons, the Nephilim, and they were all dissimilar, and they devoured one another, and the giants killed the Nephil, and the Nephil killed the Elho, and the Elho killed mankind, and one man killed another. Everyone committed himself to crime and injustice, and shed much blood on the earth, was filled with Hatah. After this they transgressed against beasts and birds and all that move and walk upon the earth, and much blood was shed on the earth, and Adam continually desired only what was useless and evil. That's an Edomite. Adamite. And Yahuwah destroyed everything from the face of the earth because of the wickedness of their deeds, and because of the blood they had shed over all the earth. He destroyed everything. Verse 4. The giants consumed all the work and toil of Adam, and when Adam could no longer sustain them, the giants turned against them and devoured Adam kind. And there's a fragment from the book of Giants. Blank everything that the earth produced, blank blank the great fish, blank blank the sky with all that grew, blank blank fruit of the earth and all kinds of grain and all the trees, blank blank beasts and reptiles, blank all creeping things on the earth, and they observe all blank blank every harsh deed and blank utterance, blank blank male and female, and among humans, blank. And verse 5 from Hanuk, and they began to transgress against birds and beasts and reptiles and fish, and to devour one another's flesh, and to drink the blood. Fragment. Blank 200 donkeys, 200 asses, 200 rams of the flock, 200 goats, 200 blank beasts of the field, from every animal, from every bird. Blank for misgeneration, inbreeding of people considered to be different races. I think that's inserted in there. I don't necessarily feel like I agree with that, because there's also these other things where they were mixing, like where they create these so-called mythological creatures like griffins and minotaurs and different things are like half man and half bull and different stuff. All that. That's what I think it's talking about. Okay, here goes another fragment right here. It says, blank, they defiled, blank, blank, they begat giants and monsters. Monsters. Blank, blank, they begat, and behold, all the earth was corrupted, blank, blank, with its blood, and by the hand of blank, giants which do not satisfy them, and blank, blank, and they were seeking to devour several blank, 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 the monsters attacked it. Okay. Book of Hanuk, chapter 7, verse 6. Then the earth laid accusation against the lawless ones. Here's some text from Yashar. Let's check this out. Yashar 2, 19 through 22. For in those days the son of Adon began to trespass against Yahuah and to go contrary to the commandments which he had given Adon, to be prolific and reproduce in the earth. Some of the sons of Adam caused their wives to drink a mixture that would render them unable to conceive, in order that they might retain their figures and their beauty appearance would not fade. Wow. Bro, think about that, man. That's crazy. That's pretty old. And when the sons of Adam caused some of their wives to drink, Zillah drank with them, and the childbearing female appeared abominable in the sight of their husbands, and they treated them as widows, while their husbands lived with those unable to conceive, and those females they were attached. And as Genesis 4:8, and Cain talked with Abel his brother, and it came to pass when they were in the field that Cain rose up against Abel his brother and slew him. And Yahuah said to Cain, where is Abel thy brother? And he said, I know not. Am I my brother's keeper? And he said, what hast thou done? The voice of thy brother cries out from the ground, and now art thou cursed from the earth, which hath opened up its mouth to receive thy brother's blood from thine hand. And thou tillest the ground, it shall not henceforth yield unto you its strength. A fugitive and a vagabond shall you be unto the earth. And I feel like that's why the Illuminati, elitist bloodlines, the tyrants that rule over and oppress us, they can't actually produce anything from their own labors. So they're constantly doing lawfare and portraying themselves as royals. They do everything to the other people to force them to produce all that they take for themselves, to enrich themselves and all the rest. And it goes into here, Azazel teaching Adam to make swords, knives, shields, breastplates, teaching them about metals of the earth, the art of working them, bracelets, ornaments, the use of antimony, and the beautifying of the eyelids and all kinds of precious stones and all the colorings and the dyes. And there was great impiety. They turned away from Yahuah and committed fornication. They were led astray and became corrupt in all their ways. Mitiyahu 5:19. Anyone who breaks one of the least of these commandments and teaches others to do the same will be called least in the kingdom of heaven, but whoever practices and teaches these commands will be called great in the kingdom of heaven. I'm really not even sure exactly why they put that in there, but that's just what they chose to do. Samjaza taught the casting of spells, root cuttings. Aramas taught counter spells, release from spells. Barajakal Kajal taught astrology. Kokabel taught the constellations. Ezekiel, the knowledge of the clouds. Arkiel, the signs of the earth. Shamisiel, the signs of the sun. Suriel, the course of the moon. And as man perished, they cried, and their cry went up unto heaven. It's interesting how there's a demonic entity that's teaching, or just a rebellious angel that's teaching man about the courses of the moon. So Yahuah created the moon for a purpose, But people who follow after the moon or worship the moon or use the moon to mark out their days, something apart from what it was made, if her role is to mark out seasons, then that's what by definition is a lunatic, like following after the moon. And there's a lot of moon worship and sun worship and all these things. It's okay to watch the celestial bodies, to discern the times and the seasons, but to like idolize them or worship them, we don't do. Book of Yashar, chapter 4, verses 18 through 20. And their judges and rulers went to the daughters of Adam and took their wives by force from their husband according to their choice. And the sons of Adam in those days took from the cattle of the earth, the beasts of the field, and the fowls of the air, and taught the mixing of animals, one species with another. That's what I was talking about earlier, in order therewith to provoke Yahuwah. And Elohim saw the whole earth, that it was corrupt, for all flesh had corrupted its ways on the earth, and all Adam and all animals became corrupted. And Yahuwah said, I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth, yea, from man to the birds of the air, together with the cattle and the beasts that are in the field, for I repent that I have made them. And all Adam who walk in the ways of Yahuwah, and all Adam who walked in the ways of Yahuwah died in those days before Yahuwah brought the evil on man, which he had declared. For this was from Yahuwah, that they should not see the evil which Yahuwah spoke of concerning the sons of Adam. That's interesting. The ones who walked in the way were spared from this. Okay, so I'm going to just keep going down here to this verse. Says it's verse 7, and Samjaza, who taught spells, to whom you gave authority to rule over his associates, and they have gone to daughters of Adam on the earth, and have had intercourse with them, and have defiled themselves, and revealed to them all kinds of crimes. Genesis 6:4, there were giants in the earth in those days, and also after that, when the sons of Elohim came in unto the daughters of Adam, and they bore children to them, the same became mighty males, which were of old, males of renown. And the females have borne giants. The whole earth has thereby been filled with blood and unrighteousness. And there's a fragment right here. It says, blank flesh, blank all, blank monsters, blank will be blank, blank. They would arise, blank, lacking in true knowledge, blank, because blank, blank, the earth grew corrupt, blank, mighty, blank, blank. They were considering blank, blank from angels upon blank, blank. In the end, it will perish and die. Blank, blank. They caused great corruption in the earth. Blank, blank. This did not suffice to blank. They will be blank. Genesis 6:5, and Yahuwah saw the wickedness of Adam was great in the earth, and that every imagination of the thoughts of his heart were only evil continually. And it repented Yahuwah that he had made Adam on the earth, and it grieved him in his heart. So it's almost making it like difficult to go through the Book of Giants without also going through Hanuk, because it's placed them all this whole thing about letting your yes be yes and your no be no. It says in verse 13, in those days they shall be led off to the abyss of fire, and to torment, and the prison in which they shall be confined forever. So this is another confirmation that annihilationism is a false doctrine, because their wrath, their judgment, the abyss of fire, is forever. Okay, and so those who follow after them are going to endure the same fate and punishment as them. So that's also eternal confinement in the abyss of fire. Then Semjaza shall be burnt up with the condemned, and they will be destroyed, having been bound together with them to the end of all generations. I can see how people would take that immediately and say, oh, that means destroyed, annihilated, burnt up. But I don't know. How can you be confined forever in space if you're ultimately just ended? That's not really the type of punishment that I think is worthy of their injustice either, when you think about it, based on Yahuwah's righteousness. So here it says there's a fragment from the book of Giants, and he answered, I am a giant, and by the mighty strength of my arm and my own great strength I can defeat anyone mortal, and I have made war against them. But I am not strong enough for our heavenly opponents, or to be able to stand against them. For my opponents blank reside in heaven, and they dwell in the Qadash place, and not on the earth, and they are stronger than I. Pause. The time of the wild beast has come, and the wild man calls me. Then Yah said to him, I have been forced to have a dream, and the sleep of my eyes vanish in order to let me see a vision. Now I know that on Gilgamesh our future rests. Oh no, I feel like I need to try to look for a different version of this that actually like lists it all out. Earlier I was listening to something, and I don't know where they find that. Excuse me.